Hello and welcome to this tutorial. My name's David Thorne. I'm from Thorne Web Design. Today what we're going to be talking about are classes in PHP and objects, and also basically how a class is made, what a few rulings are with classes, how to instantiate a class so it's an object, some object orientated programming within PHP, and a few more things. Okay, so basically we're going to cover a great deal with classes. Now, if you don't have much knowledge about classes and objects within PHP, don't worry. By the end of this, I'm pretty damn certain that you're going to have a really good understanding of it. You just need to have a good understanding of PHP itself. Alright, it can be, let's say, from a beginner to intermediate level. This kind of programming is more from the advanced to, let's say very loosely, the expert level. Right, but once you've started learning the advanced level, then it really moves on and moves on and moves on. But we're going to more stick around just touching the borders of advanced. Alright, so it's going to go from basic to advanced. Okay, without further ado, then let's crack on, shall we? Now, just a quick bit of good news is I've now been provided with the ability to do videos longer than 15 minutes via YouTube. So I'm hoping that we're going to maybe do like an hour's tutorial on this, just to kind of kick the arse out of it for the first one. Okay, well let's start, shall we? So first of all, we're just going to do like a bit of a recap on methods, functions and properties and variables and a few other little things. Alright, just so basically we're covering everything in this one video tutorial. So without further ado, let's make a quick PHP function. Alright, so normal index.php files, which is what I'm using, running through a WAMP server on Apache. Okay, so let's make a function first of all, and let's call it foo. And we're not going to put any arguments with inside in the function. And all we're simply going to do is say echo hello world. Now, not to insult your intelligence, this is basic stuff, but just so you're happy what we're doing. Otherwise, skip forward maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, so in order to call the function and actually for it to do anything, we need to actually call it. So what we say is foo, and that will then call it. So let's save this. We come over to my local host. I just made a little domain name onside my computer. And let's refresh this, and as you can see, hello world. Now if we come back again, and now we start thinking about putting some parameters inside of the function method. Alright, and what we're going to say is just simply, let's use this, and we're just going to say name. Right, now with inside this, let's remove the world, and let's just add name in there. Okay, and what we do is with inside our method, we'll actually now add just David. Okay, so now we're passing in a variable, and this is then going to be outputted hello, comma, and then the person's name. Now when we come to call it, we're going to then place a string as the first parameter as David. So let's save it and let's test it out, and as you can see, hello David. Pretty simple stuff really. Okay, and now we can have another argument as well, and have of surname, and we can come here and then put surname here. Alright, we put another argument in here and we say Thorne. Okay, now it's the second argument. Come to Firefox, or come to the browser, and now you can see hello David Thorne. Now with inside of this, we can also do some checks as well. So we can say if name is equal to David, then echo hi name, how you doing? Okay, and just to tidy up, let's just do that. Okay, else we'll say hi name, and we'll put surname in as well, and let's just chuck surname in there just to complete this. So one's being kind of polite and one's being really polite. So now we can come here, save it, and let's just tidy this up. Now this is another thing as well, just to go over this. This is always good to keep your code tidy, okay, with methods and logical. Alright, so anyway, so now we've got this once again, David Dawn, and we can come back to the browser, and as you can see, hi David Dawn, how are you doing? Now if we change this to James, okay, come back to here, now you can see it says hi James Dawn. So that's nice and simple. Now let's do this in a quick way using switch statement, and we're going to say put name in here, and then come to here, and then we're going to say case David, and then we're going to say echo hi there, name, surname. Okay, and then we'll just say break, and then case, and we'll just say defaults, and we'll just say hi name, something really simple. I'm trying not to go over this too much, and then come back to here, and as you can see, James Dawn. So just to show you that it did actually change, good day. See, and then we can change this back to David, and once again, as you can see, hi there David Dawn. Alright, nice and simple. Alright, I'm sure you know this already. Okay, so let's not go over it too much. Okay, another thing about methods as well is that if we stick a variable up here of let's just say x, okay, let's just say age equals 5. Alright, now we come in here and we say echo age. Alright, now let's first of all just see what happens, shall we? Alright, so is that saved? No, it's not saved, and you can see we're getting errors. Okay, undefined variable age in index on line 8. Okay, so you can see here line 8. This is basically because this is all to do with variable scope. Alright, now anything that's within inside of the command block here between the curly braces, right, is only available to what was inside. Alright, so this age has not actually been initiated with any value. Alright, but if we then say age equals 6, and now come back to here and refresh, you see 6 comes out. Alright, as you can see there, so we get the number 6. Alright, but this age up here has nothing to do with what's inside here. Alright, that's variable scope. Now what we could do is basically now say global, okay, or global, no, global age. Okay, now come back and we save this. Okay, so now we're basically declaring that age is global, so it's going to go outside and fetch, which is going to come up here, and it's going to come up here to fetch to see whether it can find age. We come back to here, and now you can see we've got 5. Now what about if we actually change the value of age? Alright, now outside here we just say, okay, let's do it another way. Let's say age has now been changed to 4. Let's just put that there. Now we come back to here and we're going to say echo age is now this number. Let's actually put that after that. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a, I like it done properly. Okay, it's now this number, so we can put here, let's just put that like that, Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to change age, and then we're going to echo this out, right? And then afterwards we're going to echo out the actual value of age. So let's save it. Let's go back to Firefox. As you can see here, look, age has now been changed to 4. Age is now this number 4. Okay, so what happened here? It meant that basically we changed the value of what was here. Okay. Which is fine. That's because it was changed globally, because we were actually getting the reference to this in the memory globally, so we could then change it. Now, what about if we didn't want to use the global word? All right, so let's remove this. Okay, apologies if this is hammering through really fast, but I just basically want to cover a few things first, because these are key vital things. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say age, and we're going to pass age into the method. Alright, so this is just the name of the parameter. Alright, so if when it comes to it, we can then say 6. Alright, and put it here. And we're just going to then let's just echo this out for simplicity, shall we? Okay, so now we've got age coming in, and we can come here. Now you see 6, so let's change this to 15. You can see now that this age and this age have got nothing to do with each other. This age is just the name of the parameter, okay, or the argument, sorry, that's going to be passed into the foo method. This age here is a global, it's a variable that is within inside of the script itself. All right, these two names have nothing to do with each other, and once it's inside the method, they also have nothing to do with each other, because this is only available within the scope of the curly braces. All right. Now, so when we then come to output it, we can see it says 6 still. All right. Now, what if we wanted to pass it in and actually take the value of age, right? What we're going to do is we're just going to say age like this, and then we're going to pass age into it. Now come back to here, and we can see 15. All right, so what we're doing is we're passing a reference. This ampersand here means that it's passing it by reference. Now, just to explain this, if you don't know anything about reference and you haven't done any programming with like C, C++, Java, and so on, some other actual computing programming languages, you might know about reference it by reference and using pointers. All right, we're not going to discuss pointers first of all. Now, when age is initiated, okay, it places a point inside of the memory, all right, and that point has been given, or the box inside of the memory has been allocated so many bytes for the number 15. Okay, so the fact is that the variable age is just a name for the space in the memory. Okay, so we're using the variable name age to access the place in the memory which has the value of 15. Okay, so age itself doesn't have the value of 15. It's just, it is a reference to the place in memory. Okay, now when we pass this in, when we pass the variable in by reference, that means that we're not passing in the value, we're passing in the point in the memory. Okay, so it means that, yeah, we're just basically passing in the box in the memory. First of all, if you can imagine that it's a big filing cabinet and one drawer is a place in memory, and we've placed age with the value of 15 inside of that box. Okay, so 15 is now in that box. Now, rather than saying, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to access that number 15 by using the variable name age. What I'm going to do is I'm going to access it by using the address to that place in memory. Okay, which is basically what age is. It's just a name for the spot of memory inside of the memory using that address. If you don't understand this, don't worry about it. Okay, you're gonna see how it works in a second. Okay, so passing in by reference. Let's first of all come back to here just once again. As you can see, 15. Now, what about if I now change the value to 12? All right. Now, we haven't used any global keywords here. All right. So, just to show you what happens, come back to here, and now you can see 12, which is fine. Now, how did that do that? Well, that was basically because age is now not this age, okay? It's the place in memory where it is. So all we're doing now is we're saying, right, that this place in memory, we're going to change the value of that box in the memory to 12. We're not changing this value of age, we're changing what's in the memory. Okay, so just to make this a little bit more understandable, let's say reference, reference, and reference, or ref. Okay, so now they have two completely different names, and we're passing in age into the method here. All right, so now once again we come back and you can see it's still 12. Now, what about if down after here we say, how can we do this? Let's remove the echo here, right? We'll change the value to 12. Now we've called the function here, and what we're going to do is we're going to echo out age here. But then let's put a break tag after that, just so we can do some stuff. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say age equals 5. All right. And now we're going to say echo age. Okay, so what we can see here is we've got 12 and 5. All right, so it basically changed it, and let's come here and let's put 1 before we call the function, just to show you that we get 15, 12 and 5. So as it's gone in, it's changed it. Now, what about if we change saved equals age? All right, so what we're doing is we're giving age the value of 15, and then we're passing the value of age to saved. Okay, and now what we do is we echo out saved at the end. All right, now we're going to save it. So at the moment, saved is the value of 15. All right, now the age gets passed in to the foo method, then gets changed to 12. All right, then we echo out age, which would be this, but it's been changed to 12, and then we change age to 5, and then we echo out saved. Right, now saved has the value of age. So as you can see here, saved keeps the value of 15, all right, because that was the initial value. We didn't pass that by reference, we just passed the value. We didn't pass the reference, the address of what is inside of the memory. We just passed the value itself. Now, if we now pass saved, if we now pass saved by reference, now this will say this value. Okay, so when we come here, now you can see 5. Okay, well, it was actually, sorry, we changed the value here, which was the value of age. So if you can kind of understand that save just has the reference to this in the memory, we pass age in to here, changes it to 12. We echo age out first of all, which is 15. This then echoes out age, which has been changed to 12. We then change age to 5, and we echo saved out, which has the value of the address in memory of age, which has the value of, at that one point in time, 12, or that one point in time, 5. Okay? Alright, confusing stuff, eh? Well, the best thing to do with this is just to try it out. Now, to assign by reference, you need to basically use the ampersand, okay, sign here. There's a few other rulings about when you can and can't use it, but we're not going to discuss that because those rulings take a little bit of time, and we've used already like 10 minutes just to explain this. So now that we've done this, what about basically what we're going to do next is we're going to make a class, all right? Or actually, no, what we're going to do is we'll make another function called person, all right? Now we're talking about object instantiation, all right? Now we make a function which is also can be an object as well. It isn't a class, but it can be classed as an object, or even if you went as far as to call it a type. Okay, now that's very much the likes of C, C++, Java, and so on, using types. Okay, but you also have data types, which in PHP and other programming languages you have like boolean, string, integer, array, and many others, depending on which language we're talking about. So with inside person, what we're going to do is we're going to pass in their name. All right. Now with inside of this, we're going to basically say echo name, pretty much the same as before. Yeah. Now, what about if we use the function time and time again? We just basically got to say. Actually, how can we do this? I'm just doing this on the fly, so we're going to say person equals new person, okay, and with the name of David. All right. Now then we can say person 1 equals new person, and the name equals James. So let's just place a break tag on the end of that as well. Right, just for simplicity, let's have a look at what this does. Why is it doing that? Okay, sorry, I made a fatal error there. We're talking about functions, not classes. All right. Now, okay, that was actually a good thing because I make mistakes as well, and in order to instantiate a method, okay, it has to be a class. All right. Can't believe I actually did that. So what we're going to say is a person class. All right. Now we don't need parentheses on the person. All right. But what we do need is something called a constructor. All right. Now a constructor basically. Well, first of all, let me just write it, and then we're going to explain it afterwards. Okay. Sorry, I'll just. Should get a tooltip now. There we go. Alright, so now we've got a constructor, and with inside the constructor we can basically have properties, and what we do is we say var for variable, okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to say name, and we're going to initiate it with a string value of nothing, and we're going to say surname, and then we're going to say age. Now I like to use camel case for all my PHP classes, just because in other languages I use as well, I like to use camel case in that as well, so it just keeps it generic. Okay, so to show you with NetBeans is a lot easier, okay, because it provides you with the Intellisense, okay. So what we're going to do is now we have a class of person, alright, so now we can do this once again, and we're going to say person equals new person, and as you can see here, we get a tooltip here to say what we can do. Now, with object orientated, if you know anything about JavaScript or Java or C or C++ and so on, you'll know that they use the dot notation to show the objects inside the objects itself. Now within PHP it uses a little bit of a difference. It uses the the dash and then the greater than sign. Okay. Now within NetBeans, as you saw here, we've got some more options. Okay. So we can say age equals David. Okay. And then you can say here person age equals David. What am I doing? Lunatic. Equals 5. Name equals David. Okay, and then once again we can say person surname equals Thorn. Now, as you can see here, this is now provide us with a little bit more functionality. All right, with the information inside. Now, what about we can then make a function? I'm going to talk about this in a lot more depth. All right. Now we'll make a function called say hello. All right. Now what we'll do is we'll say echo this dot age. So if I ever say dots and I do this, that's just because that's the way I just think about it. All right. But potentially there is no dot. It's this. Okay. So for the rest of this tutorial, if I ever say dot and I make this, it's not a mistake. I'm just saying it because that's how I say it. Crazy, huh? Okay, then we just say this dot surname. Okay, now and let's put a break tag on the end just for the sake of it. Now, okay, so when we come to actually look at this in Firefox, we get nothing at the moment. All right, because what we've done is we've instantiated the class person, and when we instantiated it, the public constructor, okay, got called. Now, when you instantiate a class, which this is a class, it then becomes an object. All right, this is a template of an instance of an object. All right, which means this is basically the blueprint for an object. Right, now there's other ways you can have a class, be it a static class or a public class. For this, by using the var word, the var keyword, it's going to be talking about using an object. Now we're going to discuss static classes later on. For the time being, this is an object, okay, which is a template of an instance of an object, okay, the blueprint of an object. Now, by instantiating a class, you're making a copy, okay, a new instance, a new copy of this class. So it means any methods and any properties which are defined inside the class, you are being given a new version of these, okay? So it isn't a direct copy, it's just a new version of that class and functionality and methods. Now, the var keyword here doesn't have any like private or protected or public. Okay, by default they are public, and which means they're accessible to any instantiated version of the class, be it this. And this is what the new keyword means, that it instantiates. Okay, it makes a new copy or new version of that class. Now, when we're inside of it, we can then access the properties of that class, okay, be it the age, the surname, the name, and we can set or get the properties. Now, at the moment, we're setting age, we're setting name, and we're setting surname. Now, if you do any other programming languages, you'll know the likes of C# actually provides a set and get method for every single property, whether you define it or whether you declare it or not. In the background, it defines these two methods. Now, PHP doesn't do this, but it allows you to directly define them. Now, what about having, we can then say private, okay, and let's say security code equals 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so now what we have is a private one. Now, what about if we now try and access this? Okay, so we then do this, and as you can see, we've got age, name, surname, say hello. Now, say hello is then the method which we've got here. Okay, we then have 3 public properties, and then we have a property which is private, but we can't access it. That's because it's private. It means it's only accessible within the class itself. Okay. Now, this can also be viewed. It has read-only access for any extended versions of the class, which we're going to talk about later. All right. So for the time being, if we now make, say, a protected version of, let's just for simplicity, just call it protected, shall we? And we're just going to say 111. All right. Now come down here and let's use the Intellisense once again. You can see we can still can't access a protected version of it. All right. Now, protected version means that it can still be accessed with inside of. Right. It can still be the private methods can't be accessed through an extended class, but the protected methods can be accessed through an extended method, extended class. Okay, I would rather show it than explain it. All right, but for the time being, we're just going to be talking about instantiating the class and not extending it as of yet. Okay, but that's just an insight to the different types of properties which are available. Now, one more property which is available that we can use at the moment. Well, there's a couple more, but there's only a few which I'm going to go over right now. Now, we could say basically private. Well, let's say public, and then what we can use is the keyword static. All right. So we're saying it's a public variable or property which we can use, and we're going to say static. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say hair colour. Okay, that's pretty kind of static, and we'll say blue. Now I don't want to. I want to mean that I want to every single time the person class gets instantiated, I want this one to stay the same regardless. Okay, it means that if I ever decide to change it at a higher level, all of the other instantiated classes will get updated with this one property. Okay. Now, so let's now make another version. Let's first of all, we can say person and then say hello. All right, and just for the sake of this, let's then say self and hair color. All right, now we'll explain this shortly. I just want to show you this other example first of all. So this is going to say hello David, or David space Thorn space blue. Alright, then it's going to break. So let's save this and come to here. As you can see, David Thorn blue. Now, let's copy this completely. Let's make another copy of person. So let's just change it to person 1, person 1, person 1, person 1. And let's change this to James. Now, we come back to here. As you can see, we've got David Thorn blue and then James Thorn blue. Okay, so like I said, is that all of them have the same property here, all right? But this is a static one. So, and as you can see, we've changed the name property and the surname property. And just to show you that we've changed everything, and we'll change the age of it to 7, and come back to here. And you can see here James Thomas. So each one has a different property. All right. Now, as talking about this self hair color. Now, how can we access this hair color from outside? Now, if we say person 1, and we basically want to then access the static property itself. All right. What we can do then is basically say person, okay, hair color equals red. All right. Now, what we're doing is we're accessing a static property. All right. And as you can see, I didn't use the instantiated version. I used the actual class itself, and I accessed it by using the double colons. Okay, this is pretty much the same way as using the dash and then the greater than sign, or the dot notation as well, but in PHP it uses, through a static class, it uses the double colons, alright, and then uses the actual variable name itself by using the $sign, alright, and we're changing it to red. Now let's have a look at what it says now. As you can see, James Thomas, red. Now let's now move this and place it up here. Now before any of them have got instantiated, alright. So basically, let's just show you. Okay, so we come back to Firefox. Now you can see they're both red. Now they both are a new instance of the person, and we've then set the different properties to different values. Okay, although both of the versions of person have different information, they've all got the same value of hair color. All right, because we changed it globally. We changed it statically. All right. Now, if we now remove the static version, all right, and save this, you're going to notice that we get some errors. Access to undeclared static property, person hair color in blah 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 blah. All right. That's because we're using the double colon notation with hair color because it can't find one. Because we have this set here as public, this then becomes an instant variable or instant property, okay, which means it can only be accessed when the class has been instantiated, which is using the keyword of new. All right. Now, to use any static property, you has to go direct from the class itself to access it using then the $sign. Now let's change it back just to continue on like this. Now we've got another type of property as well which we can use, which is then a constant. Okay, now we can call the constant oh, I don't know, eye color equals blue as well. Alright, now sorry, eye color equals blue. Alright, made a mistake there. Now the eye color, a constant first of all, can be set the first time and then cannot be changed once it's been declared. Alright, now how do we access the constants? Well, the constant gets access, just to show you, okay, from here. Under the instantiated version of the class we can't access it. Alright, now just to show you then here, then using the class itself, alright, I just want to show you whether we get anything through using the Intellisense. Okay, as you can see here, now we can use the eye color here. Alright, now let's just say eye color is equal to yellow. Alright, I just want to show you that it will pop up an error. Okay, so let's come back to here. See, syntax error unexpected on line 38. Let's see whether, yeah, which is cool, which is fine. So we've actually got the error that we wanted on here. Okay, because we cannot change the property of a constant once it's been set, but we can access the name basically. So let's just echo that out just for the sake of it. Okay, there you can see blue. That's the eye color. All right. Okay, so a quick recap on this. Right, just to be clear, what we're going to do is we're going to delete it all, and we're just going to start again. All right. So let's go class person. Now a class doesn't need any parentheses, any brackets after it like this. It just uses the curly braces to define the scope of the class itself. Okay, next thing that we want to do is then define the constructor itself. Okay, so public function and then double underscore and then constructs. Okay, now we're going to discuss this in a few more minutes. All right, And now we're going to make then a public function, which is then say hello, using the correct things. Say hello. Now we can then make properties with inside the class using the var keyword. Now we can also use then the public keyword, which basically explicitly sets whether it's public, private, or protected, depending on the keyword which we use. Now using var implicitly sets it, okay, to the default setting. So what we had then here is first name, and then surname, and then var age equals null, and then we'll say private, it's security, national, or let's just say national insurance number. Okay. NIN equals 1 2 3 4 5. There we go. Alright, so now we've got this information. Now say hello is just going to say echo hi, and then we come here and we'll say this dot first name, and then surname, and then we'll say this NIN. Alright, so it's nice and simple. Okay, so now we come down here and then we can say, right, person is going to be the name of the class. Okay, and then we need the new keyword, sorry, and we instantiate then the person itself. Now, person, we can now define all of the properties itself. Okay, and say David, person once again, and surname is Thorn, and then person say hello. Okay, there we go. So now that's basically just define the first name, the surname, and then we're calling the method of say hello, and that's going to echo out hi, first name, space, surname, space, the national insurance number. Okay, so we come back here and you see hi there David Thorne, and then 5 ones. Okay, pretty useless really. Now, where were we? Okay, constructor. This is what we're going to talk about now. Now the constructor gets fired on when the class is instantiated, which is on here. So as you're doing this, the class gets instantiated and then fires this function. Okay. Now this function can also have arguments as well inside of it. So let's just say name, surname, and so on. So now rather than having to enter in the properties like this, okay, we can just enter them straight into the constructor. So let's remove this because we don't need that anymore. And then if we make a new person, the Intellisense on this, see, it shows you you've got to enter this information in. So we can say David, spell my name correctly, and Thorn, end it with a semicolon, and it does exactly the same thing. Now, once we go inside the constructor, we have to then set these properties. So we can just say this first name equals name, this surname equals surname. Okay, so they're now nicely set. So let's save it, come to Firefox, and as you can see, it shows exactly the same. And let's just, for the sake of it, change this to now James. So the first name is now equal to James. Save it, come back here. As you can see, hi, James Storm 11111, and so on. Okay, see, as you can see, it fires on the constructor. Now, if it's got something that fires when it's created, then it must have something that fires when it's destroyed. Okay, so now what we can do is when the constructor finishes, when the class has finished working and dies, it then will then call the destructor. Okay, let's just say I am Now let's come back to here, and as you can see, I am dead. So once the class has been removed from the memory, it will call the destructor. Okay, so as the compiler, as such, is basically saying, okay, I've used this, I've put it in the memory, now I don't need it. The garbage collector comes along and says, okay, remove everything from memory. It will call the destructor, so we can then unset anything that needs to be unset. Okay, to be nice and tidy. Now, let's make person 1, okay, and make a new person in here, and we'll say Tony, and let's just for the sake of laugh, let's say Tony Blair, shall we? And we'll say hello here. Now, in between here, what we're going to do is we're going to say echo, I am in between the classes. Where will the destructor fire? Alright? Okay, so basically we're going to work out whether it fires now, or we're going to work out whether it fires now. Now let's say will the destructor fire now? So let's have a look then, shall we? Let's come to here and let's stick a break after that so we can read it properly. And I am dead, we'll stick one after that as well. Okay, so let's come back here. As you can see, so hi James Thorne, I'm in between the classes, where will the destructor fire? And then it then comes out with Tony Blair, will the destructor fire now? I am dead, which is then the destructor and the destructor. So as you can see, when it gets to the final piece of the final closing PHP tag, that's when it then fires, all right, and it will clean up all of the information within inside the memory. Okay, so that's now the destructor. So we'll talk about the constructor and functions. So let's remove this now, and what we want to talk about is now the likes of different styles of functions. Now let's now make a public static function of stats func. Okay, and just echo out I am a static function first of all. Okay, now let's come down here and instantiate a new version of the class. Okay, let's get Intellisense in here. So let's put our first and last name in, just so it's done. Okay, so now we have our new version of the class. Now if we come to person and see what we've got available to us, you can see here stat func, and also say hello. Now you see we're getting some problems here with this little warning light. So let's just, for the sake of it, let's come to Firefox and see what we get. Okay, I am a static function, I am dead. Now this static function basically means that it's now going to remember a few things. Okay, anything defined in it is going to remember it. Okay, but also it means that we can do something else. We can also come here and we can use it outside of the instance. Alright, now because we put it public meant that we can access it. Okay, but the static then gives it a little bit more functionality as well. Now, inside of the function, can we access anything within inside of this? No, we can't. Alright, so this is another issue. Alright, whereas inside of say hello, obviously, just to show you that Intellisense isn't messing up, we can use everything else. So as you see in here, we can't use anything which is, that just completely made me look stupid. Okay, but it can. Alright, I'm mixing up a couple of languages here actually, because inside C# you can't do this. Okay, but means that we can basically access the static function in a static way, or also then in then an object way. Alright, so let's save this and come back, and you see we've got it 2 times. I'm a static function, I'm a static function, and I'm dead. Alright, so this is basically then how that works. Now, if we was to say static function and try this again, it still works fine, okay, which is good. Okay, so now, what are we on? 50 minutes. We've got 10 minutes left. Now, I hope you guys are understanding this. So what we're going to talk about now is inheritance. Now, I'm actually going to pound through a second tutorial after this, I'm deciding, because we could talk about this so much more, alright, and we're just skipping over it just far too fast. So, what we're going to say is person. Now, well, inside of this one, we're just going to make a simple constructor, okay, and we're just going to make a simple function saying, say hello, and we're going to say echo hi there. Okay, nothing more than that. So we've now got one function with actually, just for the sake of it, let's, because it makes sense to do it this way, and we're just going to make these null. Okay, so now we've got our public class, right, or our class for person. Now, what about if we now make a new class of David, which basically means now that we can then have a constructor and also functions. But why would I want to rewrite all of this code now just to have another class which does the same things to copy all the other functionality? Well, what we could just do is use all of that functionality and then add to it as well. So what we can use is another keyword called extends, and what we're going to do is we're going to extend the person, okay, person class, which means now we've got all of this. All right, now every single class obtains a default constructor, okay, now by calling this. Now when we come here, you can see now with NetBeans, it'll automatically fire the parent constructor. Now let's just, for the sake of this, let's just say echo I am fired by my subclass. Okay, so now if we come to here and we say we're going to make David equals new David, alright, and then we say, yeah, and we just leave it at that first of all. Alright, so we're not actually doing anything with David, we just instantiated the David class, alright, and nothing actually happened inside our constructor for David, but what we did do is we called the parent constructor of person, which is called up here. Okay, so let's check whether that's saved and come here. As you can see here, I'm fired by my subclass, alright, which is done through here. Now, if we then say I am fired, let's use called in this one, by my constructor. Let's put a break on here as well. And now, as you can see, we've got two. I'm called by my constructor. Alright. Now, what about if we then make public function, okay, and when we say destructor, okay, so now I am called by the parent class. Now, when we come back to here and we fire this, you can see I am called by the parent class. So it basically meant that, where's that gone? It's now been killed here. So what about if we copy this and now place it inside here, and we now say I am called by the subclass. Alright, let's chuck that in there as well. So now we have two destructors, one for the parent class and one for the subclass. So let's come back to here, and as you can see I'm called by my constructor, right, which was then here. Alright, but then it said I am called by my subclass, but we actually did it here, I'm called by my parent class. It didn't actually do anything. Well, that's because we actually overwrote this class here. It can only ever have one destructor, okay, but it can call the parent's destructor. So by defining this one down here meant it didn't call this one here because the class had already been defined as the destructor was defined with inside of the subclass. This would be then the parent class, and this is the subclass. Okay, now what about if we want to access anything from the parent class? Okay, now without calling the parent underscore or the parent constructor. Now we can say this first name equals David. Okay, now let's call this, and as you can see here, we can say echo this. Okay, it still works fine. Okay, but what about inside the constructor? We said this first name equals John. Okay, now and we echoed out first name. All right, so we're echoing out the first name, which by default is null. Yeah, so let's come to here, and as you can see, it still says David, which is what is wrong. Why does it do that? Oh, it didn't save it. There we go. That's better. See, I'm called by my constructor. I'm called by my subclass. All right, which means that it called this. I'm called by my constructor, and I'm called by my subclass. But echoing out this first name, which was in the parent class, something has been echoed out, but it was null, so there was no value that was echoed out. Now, with inside of the parent class constructor, we initiate or we set the value of first name equal to John. Now, but when we echoed it out here, it didn't do anything. So what about if we then come to here and say parent constructor? Now let's see what we see. Okay, so we're calling parent construct after we echo out the first name. Right here. So if you can see here, I'm fired by my subclass, I'm called by my constructor, I'm called by my subclass. Okay, so you can see here, I'm fired by my subclass, which got fired when we called parent construct. Okay, but we still didn't get any first name. That's simply because we're echoing it out before it's set. So it means we have to come after the parent construct in order to get any value from it. So let's just put a break tag after it. As you can see here now, we get John, simply because simply because we've placed the echo after the parent construct. Now, what about if we actually had a name to go in here? Okay, and this was going to be passed into the constructor, right, into the parent constructor. Now, that would mean that we'd have to send something inside of here as well. So, because this is the parent constructor, we have to basically follow the rulings of providing the arguments for it. So now, the parent constructor is setting the property of first name equal to name, which is then being provided with inside the parent constructor. Although the constructor for David doesn't require a parameter, an argument, sorry. So, but we're setting it by default in the parent constructor call. So, let's come back to here, and as you can see, now David. Okay, so we can actually manipulate the parent constructor. Now, if we then set the name, our constructor of David, to have an argument in the constructor, we can then come here and say James. Okay, and then we can take this from there and this into there. Okay, and now, which means basically the argument which is being passed into David's constructor is now being passed to the constructor of person, and then we're echoing out the property of first name, which is inherited through person. So let's make sure it's saved. Come to Firefox, and now you can see James. Excuse me. Okay, so it's probably a lot of information. It is a lot of information to learn, but I'm hoping that you've got a very good guideline to show you what things can be done. The best way to do it is to keep testing and testing, and as you can see, I get confused sometimes, alright? But that's the great fun of programming, is that you need to be able to get confused sometimes, so you research it. The more and more you research it, the more you learn it, the more you try it out, and using little classes like this teaches you how to use it. And in theory, all you're doing is making a small version of a huge class. Now, your class could be 1,000 characters long, okay, but it all sticks to the same basic fundamental rulings and methods. All right. So, I'm going to cut this one short here now. Well, short. It's an hour and 1 minute. If you have watched the whole thing, thank you very much. You guys are fantastic. All right. I really appreciate the effort which you put into listening to my tutorials. And if you've listened to me for an hour, you guys deserve a medal. All right. Well, let's hope that you want to listen to me for another hour. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. My name's David Thorne. All right. Come to Facebook. I've shut my website down because I want people to come to Facebook. Okay. It's better. And I want people to come to YouTube. I don't want all of the people coming to the website, and I simply don't have the time to administer it anymore. Okay, because I have so much to do that I decided to shut it down. I may start it up another day, but for the time being, it is sleeping. It's not dead. All right, but my Facebook and YouTube channel are still completely active, so keep coming. And now that YouTube's opened the door for me to do longer videos, then I'm going to take a lot more time doing more videos. All right. Okay, guys, girls, people, ladies, gentlemen, thanks very much for watching. I wish you a lovely evening, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.